The night was darker than usual, but the silence carried screams no one could hear. A billionaire, admired by the world, feared by his rivals, envied by millions, made a choice that would change his life forever. He left his only daughter in the hands of someone he thought he could trust, her aunt. What followed was a tale of betrayal, of heartbreak, of love lost and innocence stolen. And years later, the same man who believed wealth could solve every problem was forced to regret the one mistake that money could never fix. Family, if this story grips your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Her name was Isabella. At just 10 years old, she was a fragile beauty with eyes too deep for her age. People said she looked like her late mother. Delicate frame, soft brown hair, skin pale as porcelain, and a smile that seemed too rare for a child. But what the world never knew was that Isabella's smile had died the day her mother was buried. Her father, Don Alejandro Cortez, was one of the wealthiest men in Spain. To the world, he was a visionary. He owned banks, hotels, and land that stretched further than the eye could see. Yet, for all his power, he was a hollow man inside, his grief hidden behind expensive suits and golden cigars. "Papa, will you be home tonight?" Isabella had once asked, clutching the edge of his sleeve as he prepared to leave for another late meeting. Alejandro Spey's voice was distant, almost mechanical. "Not tonight, mija. Daddy has work." "But you promised yesterday," she whispered, her voice breaking. He sighed, pulling away. "I promise you, this is the last time." But promises from men like him were paper thin, and Isabella learned, far too early, that love was often sacrificed at the altar of ambition. Weeks later, Alejandro made a decision that would haunt him. Believing that his daughter would be better cared for, he left her with his sister, Elena Cortez. To outsiders, Elena was the perfect aunt, elegant, poised, and charitable. But inside her home, behind locked doors, she carried a venom the world never saw. "Why here, Papa?" Isabella had cried when he first left her in Elena's marble-floored mansion. "Because, mija, she will love you like her own," Alejandro whispered, kissing her forehead. He never noticed the coldness in Elena's stare. From that day forward, Isabella's struggle began. Elena treated her not as family, but as a burden. Meals were smaller for her than the other children in the house. Her clothes were hand-me-downs, ripped at the seams, while Elena's own daughters wore silk and velvet. "You must learn humility," Elena would sneer, pushing away Isabella's plate when she asked for more. Isabella's nights were colder than the marble floors she slept on, her dreams filled with her mother's voice fading further each day. Yet, she clung to hope. She kept a diary beneath her pillow, writing letters to her father she could never send. "Papa, I miss you. Do you still think of me? Do you still love me?" But no reply ever came. The seasons passed, and with each day, Isabella's world grew darker. What began as subtle neglect soon turned into open cruelty. Elena had always despised her brother Alejandro's wealth, the way the world bowed to him. To her, Isabella wasn't just a child. She was a symbol of everything Elena envied and hated. "You think you're better than my daughters," Elena hissed one night when Isabella, trembling, dared to sit at the main table during dinner. I just wanted to sit near you, Aunt," Isabella whispered, her small fingers clutching the edge of the chair. Elena slammed her hand against the table, the silverware rattling. "Near me? Don't sit you dare. You search not special. You search weak, skinny, and pathetic, just like your mother." The words sliced through Isabella like knives. Her mother, the one memory she cherished, the one face she clung to in dreams, turned into a weapon against her. She lowered her gaze, cheeks burning with shame, while Elena's daughters snickered cruelly. Night after night, Isabella became the household's invisible ghost. She was forced to clean, to cook, to carry trays heavy for her fragile frame, and when she faltered, when her small body couldn't keep up, the punishments were swift. "Stand straight," Elena barked one morning, slapping Isabella Sip's thin wrist when she dropped a glass of water. No one will ever respect a girl who shakes like a leaf. But it wasn't just the chores, or the hunger, or the punishments. It was the isolation. Her father's calls never came. Birthdays passed without a single card. Letters she wrote were burned by Elena before they ever reached his hands. One night, Isabella gathered the courage to ask again. Her voice cracked with desperation. "Aunt Elena, when will Papa come for me?" Elena Stepp's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "Your Papa? Do you really think he cares? If he loved you, why did he leave you here?" The words shattered something inside the little girl. She ran to her room, burying her face in the pillow, sobbing until her chest ached. For the first time, a terrifying thought crept into her mind. Maybe Papa truly didn't want her anymore. Years went by, and Isabella grew into a teenager under the weight of betrayal. At school, she wore long sleeves to hide the bruises from Elena's sharp grip. She spoke less, smiled even less, her voice trembling whenever teachers asked her questions. "Why are you so quiet, Isabella?" a kind teacher once asked. Isabella lowered her gaze, whispering, "Because if I speak, they sell laugh." But the heartbreak didn't end there. At 16, when Alejandro finally appeared for a rare visit, Isabella's heart lit up with hope. She wore her cleanest dress, combed her hair, and stood by the doorway waiting. "Papa," she cried, running toward him. Alejandro looked at her, but his eyes flickered with something unfamiliar: disappointment. Her frame was thin, her skin pale, her shoulders slouched. She wasn't the glowing daughter he remembered. She looked broken. "My God," he muttered under his breath, not realizing she could hear. She looked so weak. The words stung deeper than Elena's cruelty. She had survived years waiting for his arms, his love, only to be met with judgment. Elena, standing smugly beside him, whispered, "I warned you, Alejandro. She sets not strong. She sets nothing like your empire." That night, Isabella overheard them arguing. "Alejandro, you were supposed to care for her, Elena." "Elena, care? Look at her. She seps a shadow. She seps no heir to your empire. She seps'll collapse at the first storm." "Alejandro, maybe you stir right. Maybe she isn't that ready." Those words, "maybe she isn't ready," became the sharpest betrayal of all. Her own father, the man she loved more than life, doubted her worth. And so Isabella retreated further into silence. The girl who once wrote letters of hope now tore out the pages, her tears smearing the ink. The light inside her dimmed until only a flicker remained. But deep inside, beneath the weight of heartbreak, something else began to stir. A quiet anger, a seed of defiance. Because even in her weakest moments, she whispered to herself at night, "One day they will regret this." For weeks, Isabella moved like a shadow in her aunt's small creaky house. The betrayal still echoed in her chest like broken glass. Her father, the man who had built empires with steel and stone, had abandoned her. Not just once, but twice. At first, she wanted to give up, to melt into the background of life. But something inside her refused to die. Maybe it was her mother Stit's voice, still alive in fragments of memory. "Isabella, you are stronger than the world wants you to believe." That whisper, half memory, half dream, became her anchor. One evening, Isabella stood in front of the cracked bathroom mirror. Her reflection was pale, her eyes swollen from weeks of crying. She almost didn't recognize herself. She whispered aloud, her voice trembling but sharp, "No more. He will not break me, not again." And for the first time, she believed it. Her aunt, Rosa, noticed the shift. "Aunt Rosa, Mija, you look different tonight, like fire in your eyes. What changed?" "Isabella, I accept done being the weak one in his story. From now on, I write my own." From that night, Isabella's transformation began, slowly, painfully, but deliberately. She got a job at a local cafe, sweeping floors and serving coffee. The pay was small, but every coin she saved felt like a seed planted in the soil of her future. She learned humility. She learned patience. And she learned how to survive without privilege. By day she worked. By night, she studied. Books became her escape, psychology, business, leadership, even self-help guides written by people who had clawed their way out of nothing. Her aunt would find her asleep on the kitchen table, head resting on open notebooks, pen still in hand. Aunt Rosa. Dios mío. She kept becoming unstoppable. Then came the body. For years, Isabella had been mocked. Too weak, too soft, too fragile. Not anymore. She signed up at a rundown gym nearby. At first, the weights felt impossible. But every rep, every bead of sweat, became a declaration. I will not be defined by his rejection. Her arms grew stronger. Her back straightened. The girl who once hid her body now walked with fire in her step. Still, the nights were hard. Some nights, she cried replaying the moment her father left her behind. But something had shifted. Instead of despair, her tears became fuel. Isabella. One day he will look at me and regret everything. At the cafe, customers began to notice her sharp mind and warm resilience. One older gentleman, a retired lawyer, often lingered after hours. You remind me of my daughter. Smart, determined. Have you ever thought of law school? Isabella laughed bitterly. Law school? I can even afford proper shoes. The man leaned closer. Shoes wear out. But intelligence, that lasts forever. Don't waste it. His words stuck with her. Months passed. She entered local competitions, debates, essay contests, even small business pitch nights hosted at community centers. Sometimes she won. Sometimes she failed. But every attempt chipped away at the version of herself her father had abandoned. And every failure, she turned into fire. One night, after placing first in a citywide essay competition, she walked home with the trophy in her hand. The stars glittered above. She stopped in the street, tilted her head back, and laughed through her tears. Isabella. Do you see me now, father? This is only the beginning. Neighbors peeked out of windows, confused at the strange midnight cry. But Isabella didn't care. For the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. By the time 2 years passed, Isabella was unrecognizable. No longer the fragile girl her father had abandoned. No longer the weeping shadow in a broken mirror. She was steel. She was fire. And her rise had only just begun. Years passed. The girl abandoned by her billionaire father was no longer a victim. She was a force. Isabella had clawed her way into a scholarship at one of the best universities. Her essays, her speeches, her fire, they caught the eyes of professors, business leaders, and even the media. Her name began to appear in articles. Her face, once hidden in shame, was now known as a story of resilience. But fate has a way of arranging confrontations. And soon, their worlds collided again. It was a gala in Madrid. A grand hall, glittering with chandeliers, filled with the richest men and women in Europe. Isabella had been invited as a keynote speaker, the girl who had risen from nothing to inspire thousands. She wore a black gown, simple yet commanding. Her walk was steady, her gaze unflinching. And across the room sat him, her father, Don Alejandro Alvarez, the man who had once called her a burden, the man who left her to rot. Now older, grayer, but still cloaked in power. He hadn't expected her. When his eyes fell on her name in the program, his wine glass nearly slipped from his hand. Isabella stepped to the podium. The hall fell silent. Her voice carried like fire across the room. There was a time in my life when I was discarded. When the people meant to protect me, abandoned me. But that pain became my teacher. And today, I stand here not as their shadow, but as my own light. The audience erupted in applause. Some wiped tears. Others whispered in awe. And her father. His face turned pale. After the event, he approached her. For the first time in years, they stood face to face. Don Alejandro. Isabella, you've grown into something extraordinary. She cut him off. Her eyes, sharp as blades, locked on his. Isabella. Extraordinary. No, just free. free from the chains you put me in. Do you know what it feels like to be thrown away by your own blood? He swallowed hard. For once, the billionaire had no words. Don Alejandro, I thought it was for your own good. Isabella laughed bitterly. No, it was for your convenience. The weight of her truth crushed him. That same year, Alejandro's empire began to crumble. Bad investments, scandals, betrayal from business partners he once trusted. The media tore into him. The man once worshipped as untouchable was now falling. And the world that once bowed before him now bowed before her. Months later, he came to her modest office. No bodyguards, no expensive suits, just a broken man begging for forgiveness. Don Alejandro, Isabella, I was wrong. I see that now. I lost everything. But worst of all, I lost you. She looked at him for a long moment. Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice was steel. Isabella, you didn't lose me, father. You threw me away. And now, you live with that choice. She stood, gathering her papers, preparing to leave. Don Alejandro, please, I am still your father. She turned back, one last glance. Her lips trembled as she whispered, Isabella, a father protects, a father stays. Whatever you were never my father. And with that, she walked away, into the life she had built, the future she had earned. Isabella didn't just survive. She conquered. Her voice became global, her story told in schools, conferences, and across social media. And her father, he lived with the weight of regret, the greatest punishment of all. Family. What would you do if the person who betrayed you came back begging for forgiveness? Would you forgive? Or would you walk away? Comment below. Your answer might inspire someone else. Sometimes the people who break us are the ones who should have protected us most. But the truth is, their betrayal is not our end. It's the beginning of our rise. Like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us. Pain can break you, or it can build you into something unshakable.